89.3 Nigeria Info. This is the nation's number one talk news and sports radio station. We're broadcasting live from our audio visual studios right here in Itamayan Crescent, Victoria Island, Lagos. My name is Marianne G. Kokona. Welcome to the Big Hard Facts. I did tell you earlier on that we're going to be talking about the NNPCL and the recent MOU that was signed between the federal government and a Chinese company. Well, in case you do not know, first and foremost, let me put it like this. Let's talk about your money, our money. Because whether you like it or not, or whether you know it or not, you and I will be paying for Nigeria's refineries again and again and again. Over 3.2 trillion naira has been spent trying to fix just two of them, Port Harcourt and Warri. And after all that money, ladies and gentlemen, they're still working on the way how they should phrase it for us to tell us that it's not working still. Well, now the federal government, through the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, has signed a new deal with Chinese firms to step in and run them. Another deal. Yes, another promise and another restart. But here's the question. Are we fixing a problem or are we recycling failure? Because this is not just about oil. It's about governance. It's about corruption, accountability, and our economic survival. And joining me to have this conversation today are two people who, anytime I want to talk about energy, I want to talk about oil and gas, these are my guys. They are my go-to guys. So I decided that I bring both of them so I have like a double barrel conversation with this gentleman. But before I introduce them, here are some of the hard facts for today. Nigeria has spent over $2.3 billion on refinery rehabilitation in recent years. Despite that, the Port Harcourt refinery reopened briefly and then shut down again in 2025. Now, we hear that there's this MOU with Sanjiang Xingcheng. And then they may become technical equity partners, meaning that they could run and manage the refineries. But no clear cost of this new deal has been disclosed. Experts already warning about lack of transparency, risk of repeating failures, whether these refineries should just be scrapped entirely. And this is happening while the Senate is probing massive financial discrepancies in NNPCL accounts. So tonight, I'm being joined by Nika Gule, who is an energy expert, is also a public affairs analyst. I'm also being joined by my friend and also a great analyst who we like to bring. I stole him from Joyce, by the way, and I'm very happy to say that. Jide Pratt is joining us live also via Zoom. Jide Pratt is the COO of INA, and he's also the country manager for Trade Grid. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on the show. Welcome to Hard Facts.
Thank you very much, Marianne. Good day. Good day, Mr. Nick.
Thank you, Marianne. Happy to be here.
Lovely. So let's get into it because Nigerians some people are mad and some people have already given up and they could not be bothered about what happens with our refineries anymore because they can't tell which is true and which is false. So, Jide, let's start here. After 3.2 trillion naira, why are these refineries still struggling? I know that you're not in the best position to answer, but you have an idea, do you?
Okay, so let me first say good evening. I think that every time a budget is raised, it's for an expenditure. So what it means is that, and you find out you have quarterly reviews, mid-year reviews, and then end-of-year reviews. So for me, if an expenditure has been given or has been started, it means that at milestones, be it quarterly, be it half yearly, or be it at the end of the year, there needs to be an appraisal to say we've spent 2.5 billion. We set out to spend 2.5 billion on A, B, C, D. A has worked. B is not working. This is the variation we think we need for C. I think that a lot has gone into the refineries, but in my personal opinion, we might just be throwing money at a problem that we don't know. I've spoken a lot about the age of the refineries, but you see, things that are mechanical, it's not just about age. A car is a mechanical item, but you have cars that run 100,000, 200,000 kilometers. So it's in finding where the problem is and actually spending money on solving those problems. And the aim of that is so that the money that goes in, the investment is returned over a period of time. But for me, I am not so sure if for two reasons: accountability, we've done well enough, and putting our finger on the problem that needs to be solved by spending continuously. So I think that's how I'd like to start this conversation.
Interesting. Let me toss to you, Nick. What exactly is this technical equity partnership? Because that's where we're stuck at right now. And I'm not very good with some of these, you know, technical jargons. How is it different from an outright privatization? Because recently the presidency was taking a jab or a swipe at the Obasanjo administration and the former vice president for privatization. Is this a different way of saying that we're privatizing the NNPCL and the refineries?
Not at all. Not at all. This MOU, even though the details are not yet public for us, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, fine. The MOU that has been reported to have been signed between the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, and these two Chinese companies is nothing close to privatization. A privatization will involve the selling of the NNPCL to the private sector. And that private sector is not just foreign investors, to even Nigerians. They put the NNPCL out on the stock market and let Nigerians buy the shares, and then let Nigerians be part of the management of the NNPCL. That is when the NNPCL will truly become a privatized company. Because now, even though the NNPCL is carrying limited on its name, the owners of the NNPCL is still the Federation of Nigeria. There are actually two shareholders in the NNPCL as of today. One is the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, and then the other is the Ministry of Petroleum Incorporated. And these are government entities. This is 100% of the shareholding in the hands of the government. And for me, this is doing the same thing all over again and expecting different results. You know, like I do always like to point to the privatization that happened in the telecom sector. Assuming we were insisting that it is neither a company that was poorly managed, poorly funded, to be the one to go sign MOUs with MTNs of this world to try and bring telecoms to Nigeria. I'm sure, and I'm happy to put my pension on the table, that we will not have got the telecoms revolution that we have now. The only reason that the MTNs came in, the Econet and the Glo, and they ran away with it. They were able to take ownership, provide their capital, their expertise, and their technology, and they were able to invest to build the infrastructure to provide telephones to Nigeria. And that is the solution. Because this MOU is going to lead to what? Who is bringing the financing? The details are not there. And also, what is the real deal? Is it a PPP, or these guys are coming as technical partners, or on what basis? But for so long as the NNPCL is part of this, it's just like what has happened before. And I did a quick check on the two entities that have been announced. The first one, yes, they are into petrochemicals and all of that. Then the second one, the one that has Park as part of his name, he said these guys are just in the business of operating parks. That these are like leisure areas. And I'm like, okay, so what's going to be their contribution to this MOU? Are they just coming to make the environment or the refineries to look nice, do the landscaping in the refineries, or what is this going to be? So, Marianne, let's not be running in circles. What the Nigerian refineries need is an outright sale. Put these refineries back in the market the way the President Obasanjo's government did in 2007. And let investors be the one to tell us that these refineries are scrap and they have no value. Otherwise, I don't think this MOU is just going to be the same thing, same result, money down the gauntlet with no results, unfortunately.
I wanted to ask Jide this question, but I don't know if it's necessary anymore, because from what you've seen globally, can we say that aging refineries like Warri and Port Harcourt, you could still make economic sense? I mean, you're saying let's sell it, and that's because you don't know what the prognosis would be after, they run a diagnosis of sorts. But Jide, is Nigeria trying to fix something that's outdated that does not need to be fixed, or should we be thinking about building new ones? I mean, because there are those who have said that the money that we've spent in turnaround maintenance, if we started a new refinery, I mean, look at what Dangote did. Wouldn't we have been on the path to some sort of recovery?
You make an excellent point. If you try fixing something that is not, the chances are that at the end of that process, it's going to be suboptimal. For over 4 or 5 years ago, I said that those refineries have reached their best buy date. So ideally, what should happen now is that you should sell that refinery for the scrap value that it is. If you look at something as simple as sulfur content, where everybody seems to be moving towards 50 particles per million, those refineries cannot refine low sulfur fuel in the state they currently are. And even if they are revamped, they are not likely to be able to. So the point is this: if those refineries were built, and let's assume one was 265, one was 150, if you combine the two. The point is this: sell it as scrap. The steel that is there will be smelted for whatever mechanical engineering needs to be done. But it means that whoever is coming in to look at that looks at it as, I'm starting from ground up. The advantages those refineries have today is that they're close to the coast. So if you look at it in terms of receiving crude, which is their raw material, brilliant. But the logic that we're signing a memorandum of understanding, we're not signing a contract, we're not signing a build, operate, and transfer. We're signing a non-binding memorandum of understanding. And Mr. Nick said something very important. I actually checked, and when I saw Parks and Gardens in this, I was a bit confused. So I thought it was an error, and then there'll be a press conference or a press addition to say that we were misquoted. But sadly, the aim of these technical MOUs should be that they end up being technical infusion, and at a certain time, equity play. That is what ideally they should be said. And in 1980s, 1990s, even when the documentation for the Warri and Port Harcourt refineries were published, if you look at those documents, they spoke to technical assistance, but they spoke to technical assistance and partnership towards equity building. But why are we building something that is suboptimal today? What has happened to what has gone into it? And if we spend more, the truth of the matter is that it can never be optimal in terms of efficiency. So sell it as scrap and let's move on. That's what we need to be doing.
No hope at all. Wow. So but there's a question that's been bothering me this whole time, because if these Chinese firms are coming to operate or run these refineries, as they say, what do we need the NNPCL for? What will they be doing right now?
Who's that question for?
Anybody can answer that question. It's a question that I've been, just thinking about. What would be the relevance of the NNPC if these companies are here to run the refineries?
Okay, is that for me?
Yeah, Nick, you can try, yeah.
Okay, yes. So basically for me, I have lost faith in the NNPCL. I don't think the NNPCL, as currently constituted and managed, can provide anything good for Nigeria. You can clearly see the situation. Someone like Bayo Julari is a competent professional. I've not just heard about him. We worked together in Shell. So I know him as a person. I know that he's got the technical competence. He's got the managerial competence. He has led share companies. He's a man that can change things. But look at how he got into the NNPCL, and he's struggling, right? He's not able to do what he would have done with a share company, right? Because the institutional foundation, the structure of the NNPCL and the ownership of the NNPCL makes it impossible for anybody to perform in the role of the CEO. So I have totally lost faith in the NNPCL. I don't think anybody, I mean, people are entitled to have their faith, and that is why anything that is planned to happen with the NNPCL as a supervisor or superintendent is not going to happen. This has happened many times in the past. We've spent money, we've brought in contractors, we have done all sorts of things. So whilst the NNPCL is struggling, is just consuming resources without producing anything, because like the refineries we're talking about now, Marianne, if you go to those refineries, the full complement of the refinery staff are in place. So for over the decades that these refineries have not produced, people have been working there and retiring, and they are recruiting people into the refinery that they want, and climbing the ladder, being promoted in a refinery that has never worked for so long. So that kind of situation, it will show you that this is not a business. So for the NNPCL to do well, we just need to bring in the private sector to run the NNPCL. Because if we do a comparison...
But Nick, this is the private sector, a foreign private sector with parks and gardens.
Whoever, because if we look at the NNPCL, yeah, the NNPCL is 49% owned by the Nigerian government, right? And no, sorry, the NNPCL is owned 100% by the Nigerian government. The NLNG is what I meant to say, is owned 49% by the Nigerian government. Look at the performance of these two companies. They are both owned by the Nigerian government. One is being managed by the private sector. The NLNG is being managed by the private sector. The managing director of the NLNG is always a share staff. It's always been the case, even in the days I was in share till now, right? So why the deputy managing director is an NNPCS staff, and then the rest of the management team is being divided amongst the government and the IOCs that are in that NLNG. And look at the performance of the NLNG from train 1 to train 7, and they are making a lot of money, paying dividends into the federation account. And now we have their brother, their senior brother, Oga, the NNPC, who is chopping money from the parents without bringing anything into the box. The other day they say, oh, we dropped, was it, did they say 2.7 trillion in the federation account? Look, that is money that they are making from joint ventures that they have taken, because the NNPC's own revenues cannot cater for their costs. How much do they need to pay the refineries that are not operating? They have an upstream wing. How much is the, the other day I was forced to do a write-up. The NNPCL is always reporting Nigeria's crude oil production numbers as their own. And I said, come, you guys should be real. This 1.3 million barrels you are reporting per day is not your numbers. This is the numbers for Nigeria. And this is the numbers that the NUPRC should report in. You guys should go and report upstream wings production. How much? So that we can know how much crude oil you are producing as a company vis-a-vis the resources.
That remains that remains a mystery. That remains. I mean, that will remain a mystery until something is done. But Jide, let me come back to you quickly before we go on a break. Oh wow, we've got 1 minute 38 seconds. Should we as Nigerians be worried as to the fact that the details of this MOU is unclear? We don't know what this deal really is, plus the fact that we have parks and gardens in it. What does this signal? Because I don't know.
I mean, for me, it doesn't signal anything because this is what the government has done time and time and time again. So they've taken it to a certain level where they look at it that if they're low on details, nobody's going to request for it. If people request for it, they don't give them. So they just go ahead and do what they want. The audacity to be able to print in one page and talk about how you want to do a technical partnership and you're extremely loose on details, it's not an oversight. It's by design. Two things needed to have happened. When the board of NNPC was reconstituted and the management team changed, I said something. I said, if you're looking for experience, knowledge, you can't find it outside this place. But if the structure that they are going into is flawed, then it's just a matter of time. The tide will consume them. But what I keep on asking, consummate professionals at a certain stage in their lives must take a walk and say, this is not working. This is not what I signed up for. So you were eggshell. Everybody that writes eggshell, it's not a facade. When you say eggshell, it's because best practice is what groomed them. So if you get into an organization and you find out that there's no structure, take a walk.
We've got to go on a break. We've got to go on a break. We'll be back. Nick and Jide are still here. We'll be back later. Stay with us.
More news and information coming up. We'll be back in a moment.
Shoppers, make una hear correct gist. Maggi chicken flavor promo don land o.
Buy Maggi chicken flavor 50 double cubes pack and get 10 extra cubes free.
Yes o, and if you buy small 10 double cubes pack, you go get 4 cubes free.
Now double rich chicken taste, more enjoyment and more value for your money.
No carry last o. Rush go your nearest shop now and ask for Maggi chicken flavor promo pack before e finish. Me and Maggi, so good together.
On your first day on the job, this is what your pension fund investment sounds like. On your first new job, bonuses, promotions, not forgetting that big move. Promotion. When you get a bonus for good performance. Followed by promotions. Promotion, partnership. Until one day you retire. You see, the value you enjoy tomorrow is earned today. And with Crusader Sterling Pensions, we work harder to make sure you get a better deal on your investment when the time comes. So live the life of an MVP, most valued pensioner, knowing that Nigeria's MVPFA is working tirelessly for you. Creating wealth for retirement. Crusader Sterling Pensions, a member of the Custodian Investment PLC Group.
Hey, yeah, now I be with Orabi, my teeth strong, my mouth is fresh, it clean well, oh, now Orabi, strong teeth Orabi, fresh bread Orabi, 24/7 with Orabi, strong teeth Orabi.
Yes, so get your own Orabi 130 grams pack now for 1,500 naira. Now Nigerian Dental Association self deal with Orabi.
Yes, so this is Jolly Johnny on the streets. How well do you know Maggi chicken flavor? Oh yeah, spell celery.
Celery. Celery.
Bros, you want turn to salary? Okay, spell turmeric.
TURMERIC.
Yes, so
Turmeric.
correct. 1 carton of Maggi chicken flavor for you.
Maggi chicken flavor with onions, celery, and turmeric. My game changer.
LG Duo Cool, mosquitoes away, air conditioner keeps mosquitoes far away. LG Duo Cool.
And because LG cares beyond products, eligible customers can access free malaria insurance upon purchase of an air conditioner from Fuani Showroom or any authorized dealer store nationwide.
LG, life is good, life is good.
I'm tired. I need a break, I beg. Imagine Johannesburg, cute beaches, soft life, and good vibes.
Johannesburg, okay. Babe, have you seen flight prices lately?
That's what I thought too, until I saw Fly Gabon.
Huh? Fly Gabon?
Yes, so they've been flying since April 17th and with over 20 years of experience.
For real?
Yes, and with flights from Lagos to Joburg from just 704,900 naira.
Wait, That price is real 704,900 naira. Hey!
Yes, it is. And you get to Johannesburg in just 7 hours and 40 minutes. Same day arrival on the modern Airbus A320. Enjoy extra baggage allowance, flexible tickets, and connect beyond Johannesburg to Gabon, Equatorial Guinea, and more. Book now at flygabon.com or visit the ticket office at Terminal 2, Ikeja, Lagos, or call 0201-279-9003.
Fly Gabon, the heart of Africa, is open to you. Fly Gabon is IATA and IOSA certified.
It's amazing how your child grows up before your eyes. Enable their thriving development and the care they need with the new NanKid 4 with HMOs to support your child's development, probiotics to help your child's digestion and development, and high-quality proteins to support age-appropriate growth. And all of these work together to support your child's development and growth today and tomorrow. NanKid 4. Nourish your child's potential.
Out of airtime and you don't have money to top up? Out of data and you don't have money to top up? The GT Bank airtime and data loan is available to you anytime. Just dial *737*90# for airtime and *737*91# for data to get up to 10,000 naira instantly at just 2.95%. T's and C's apply. You are never stranded with the GT Bank airtime and data loan.
2 drops of lemon, a spoon of charcoal, and salt.
What are you mixing? Why is there charcoal all over the place?
It's my teeth whitening mixture. I want to be like you.
Forget this concoction. Just use the new Pepsodent Natural Charcoal Whitening Toothpaste.
Get naturally whiter teeth with the new Pepsodent Natural Charcoal Whitening Toothpaste, made with natural activated charcoal that whitens your teeth and lemon essence that deeply cleanses. Pepsodent Charcoal, natural charcoal, whiter teeth.
The daily dose of important updates and stories all around the world.
The primary and secondary school teachers in the FCT have resumed an indefinite strike.
Is it because it's the poor people, children that are going to public school? That's why they don't care.
The Minister of Education, policies from assaulting every night.
Well, the plight of Lagosians or Nigerians in general with almost expired, if not expired, food.
Food that is packaging this food. I didn't know again.
This lies on the average Nigeria because now that can't be everywhere.
If the head is bad, all other body will feel the pain. So we need to correct this head.
It's Nigerian station for talk. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
This is Hard Facts.
On 99.3 Nigeria Info, the nation's #1 talk news and sports radio station. We're talking about this MOU that we have signed with 2 Chinese companies, most importantly, to apparently run the refinery or try to awaken it from its slumber, for the want of a better way to describe it. My guests have been trying to make sense of the situation of things. Nika Gule, Jide Pratt here with us on the Big Hard Facts today. And before we went on that break, of course, I asked a question about if we should be worried about the fact that this deal is not clear or unclear to us. And Jide didn't mince words. He's saying that this is the modus operandi of government because we have not, because we ask not. And they're hoping on the fact that we will not ask. But let's look at this. Economically, 3.2 million naira, trillion naira, I beg your pardon, has already been spent. In this deal that we're all uncertain of, does it mean that we're not going to spend any money? Does it mean that we're just going to fold our arms and watch them turn around and do something to... I'm trying to understand, but most importantly, all the monies that we have put in the NNPCL, is there a possibility of us probing and getting those monies back? I see what's happening on the floor of the National Assembly. I heard a member of the House of Representatives today say that, I think it was a senator actually, that said that we used 5.8 billion naira to christen the NNPCL, and that we just added the L for 5.8 billion naira. this is not the first time. Let me just ask the question directly. This is not the first time that we've seen these probes go on. We've seen monies go down the drain. Do you think that this National Assembly, especially the Senate, is capable of probing this NNPCL and getting our monies back? Do you think that Nigerians will get justice with the probe that's ongoing right now? I'll start with you, Nick.
I have no faith in the current National Assembly. I have zero faith in them. I'm very happy to say this on national radio for both national and international audience, that the current National Assembly has not discharged their responsibilities in a way to give me confidence that they can actually probe the NNPCL and come up with anything positive. You see, Marianne, I always like to return to a sector like telecoms because it mirrors what is happening now. Well, when I was growing up, I always heard about NITEL, and then when I got into school at the point where I needed to make a phone call, for you to make a phone call was by arrangement. For you to own a phone line was by arrangement. You really needed to know someone high up to be able to own a phone line. In fact, to own a phone line was what a minister described as an exercise that is not for the poor. And the government was pumping money into NITEL, and we were not seeing funds at all. There were all sorts of probes that were happening. You know, when we got into the military regime will set up task forces on business centers led by majors. They will carry soldiers and get them onto trucks to go into town, and they are creating business centers that normally we get phone lines of individuals or corporates transferred to them by NITEL staff, sharp practices, and all of that. That was government's response to a simple matter. What was the solution? The solution was private sector come in with funding, increase the number of phone lines from 500,000 to 200 million, and everything about telephone has gone quiet. No more National Assembly probes. No more EFCC for officials. No more criteria. No more task forces on business centers. If you want 1,000 phone lines now, you get it. This is what private sector will do, right? So we don't want these probes. We don't want these endless probes. We just want the government to do what is right, which is put the private sector in the driving seat of our energy sector, so that the likes of the NNPCL will be run like companies. And for me, this is where I fought President Tinubu. I mean, he's in France. Maybe he's in France or he's in Kenya, maybe in between. If you ask President Tinubu today and say, Mr. President, what are your biggest achievements as a president? I know he's going to mention a remove fuel subsidy. He will say, I unified the foreign exchange market. Those, for the past 3 years, the president has been talking about it. But you know what? Removal of fuel subsidy, yes, it was a courageous decision. But it also meant that Nigerians are now buying petrol at 1,300, 1,400 instead of less than 200. What has the president done about that to bring the price down? The answer is in supply. The president needed to have taken immediate. In fact, the day that the president announced that fuel subsidy is gone is the day that he should have announced that the days of the NNPCL mismanaging our refineries are also gone. Because the fuel subsidy is a fallout of the refineries that the NNPCL had run down. It's because the refinery stopped working that we now started to import petroleum products, and then fuel subsidy now came about. So how could the president have solved fuel subsidy without solving the cost of the fuel subsidy in the first place? So right now, as we speak, we are in the hands of a monopoly. Dangote is a monopoly. He didn't make himself a monopoly. He didn't create himself. He didn't call for it. But because we don't have any other source of refined products, apart from importation, whatever price Dangote, in fact, today I saw a news flash that say Dangote refinery has increased price to 1,350. What then that means is that in the next 1 or 2 days, we are going to see 1,500 on the pump. If Dangote tomorrow says it's 2,000, what can we do? Nothing. President Tinubu is there watching us doing MOU with refineries 3 years on. This is not nice.
Jide, why do you think that the NNPCL and its dealings have been shrouded in so much secrecy for over the years? I mean, till tomorrow we don't know how much, and that's what Nick was saying earlier on, that, you know, they keep talking about crude oil, how much of, you know, we've lifted or whatever, but they're not giving us their own figures. We don't even know how much we consume in a day as a country, and that's because the NNPCL has not given us that information. Why do you think there's so much secrecy? Is there a cabal of sorts that's bigger than the president? And I'm not just talking about Tinubu, any president of this country.
I've never believed in that word cabal. Where there's chaos, there's gain. And in that gain, it's intentional. So let me go back. Years back in the industry, we used to have something called Operations White. I've never been in upstream. I've always been in downstream. And Operation White took us from depots to depots, 26 national depots. We traced trucks. We traced trucks to underground tanks. We had PEF Aquila tags. So we knew what was coming out from pumps on a daily basis. So we were able to match supply and daily sales. So we knew what the volumes were. Now, when subsidy started getting to high peaks, the same government staff were the ones who were vilifying vessels and saying that this vessel has discharged X amount in this terminal. And we found out those terminals did not receive any product. They got empty tank inspection reports, and these things were recycled. So when we talk about the NNPC, the way it is wired, the way it is, I tell you, and I've always said this, in my career, I've been blessed to meet some NNPC people that I cannot believe work in NNPC because of the sheer brilliance. But let me tell you something. Until, and I think Nick has alluded to this at the beginning, why does NLNG work? It's inside the same Nigeria now. It's very, very simple. They work because 49% is what is owned by the government. The government took 13 to 15 years to make a PIA. And then immediately after you made the PIA, did it not make sense to send out 51% of NNPC shares at that point in time to the private sector? Put it on the stock exchange. Why did you wait?
Exactly.
They waited. Now, when they waited, they now moved on and continued with the same thing that was happening before. And I said, you know what? Let's take this thing around. Let's go and bring in experienced people. If we put in the experienced people, so what we've done is that we've set out the intent. But intent without purpose and action is absolutely zero. So you bring in Biojulari, it doesn't matter. Go and bring in the MD of Saudi Aramco. The way the NNPC is, they're brilliant minds in our place, Marianne. And the way they are set up, it cannot work. Take full control. Government has no business doing business. Set up an enabling environment. NNPC is a money spinner if it is run right. If you give that company to this same Chinese people that don't have the capacity that we're talking about, if you give them the NNPC to run, they'll make a profit. So what is so confusing about it? It's not opaque, Marianne, let's be clear. Every NNPC MD has information on what needs to be done. And believe you me, because the Minister of Petroleum Resources is always the president, they also have that information. What they decide to do with it, to turn around that entity, is what beats me. Move 49% away and say that, okay, 51% to, it's going to the stock exchange. That is where you begin to see changes. LNG is working because when people are speaking, they're speaking based on the shares that they own. And the first thing with capital is that it will chase return. So when they go and look for funding, NLNG will find it. And because they're judicious, there's corporate governance in that organization. That is why they're doing what they're doing. It's not the only case. If you go to the Nigerian Sovereign Wealth Insurance Agency, that's another thing. 51% is out, 49%, they're making money. So it's not rocket science. We have examples, but we are not ready as a country. In chaos, some people are gaining. So it's opaque by nature.
Yeah, I thought that maybe at the end of this conversation I would have some clarity and some glimmer of hope, but I think that you both have helped us to paint a really, really gloomy picture of what's happening right under our noses. And of course, the buck again stops on the table of Mr. President. And like you said, whatever needs to be done with that information obviously is not being done. But I want to open up the phone lines because we don't have all day. 0201-277-0993, 0201-465-7190. Should the government, like Jide said, scrap metal the NNPCL? Or should they completely privatize it? Or sell it off? What is... is keeping the NNPCL as a cesspit, is it deliberate? And who's gaining? 0201-277-0993, 0201-465-7190. 60 seconds is all you have. Go straight to the point, please.
I greet you once again, Miriam.
Good evening.
I just have simple question to ask your guests in the studio. Because if you like, you go and buy or produce your own encyclopedia and quote all the English and speak it into this world. Nothing will happen. I want to ask them, how can we get a working government that can fix the NNPC and make it working so that we forget about all this grammar, because grammar will not help us. We need a working government. How can we get that government? Let them give me that answer. Thank you.
They're energy experts. They're not politicians. They're not political. Well, Nick is a political analyst, but I mean, I'll let him answer that in a bit. Hello.
Good evening, Mary and Maduka from Festac. I just want to ask your guest, is there a connection between, the president being the oil minister, the NNPC, and the crude oil exploration and sales? Is there a connection? Because that might be the problem. Because maybe there is something that is going on there that is crippling the president. And, there is something there. I'm not sure. But if there is, then that's where, and it will never stop until a statesman comes on as the president. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Maduka, for calling. I'll take one more call and then I'll let the guys respond. Hello.
Maria, good evening.
Turn off your radio.
Once again. Yeah, I've turned it off. I think we need to give this government that Chinese MOU. This government is the type that always know how to turn moribund things into beauty, just like they did with the NRS building. So you should give them time this time. It's not like other government. And I think they have privatized NNPC. So I don't know. I think they are just like that NLLG that they talked about. So
do you just wake up and say anything that comes to your mind? Who told you that the NRS?
No.
Sorry, hold on. Who told you that the NRS building was moribund and they turned it around? Are you joking?
Yes, it was abandoned for some time before they beautified it.
Okay, and how does that help us economically? Wasting our money to beautify the building?
We should just give them chance. They know what they are doing, especially this man.
Thank you very much for calling. Nick, there was a question for you about how do we get good governance? And then, Jide, you respond to the second question.
Yes, so to get a good government is in the hands of Nigerians. I always advise Nigerians that we have the people we call public servants and civil servants. So let's not forget that there is a servant in their name. What that means is that we, the citizens of Nigeria, are the shareholders of Nigeria. We own Nigeria. And the president is a managing director. With his cabinet and the states are like general managers of the different divisions. So a situation where the shareholders have allowed the executives to run roughshod over them without taking any action is what will lead a company to go downhill. So our young people who want to jackpot, for those who have succeeded in jackpot, once you arrive in that foreign country, you will see that the citizens in those countries have taken ownership of their country, and they don't give the leaders an inch to misbehave. Because just like we pick up someone in the market who has stolen a chicken and brutalize them or even lynch them, we have to focus our eyes on those who are leading us so that, look, today, Nigeria is producing 1.3 million, 1.5. We could be producing 5 million barrels of crude oil, even 10, given our reserves. We have 37 billion barrels of crude oil in the ground waiting to be extracted. The government goes to do a beautiful tax law, but if we increase crude oil production by 1 million barrels per day, it will give us far more money than a tax law over a small economy. So why are we not doing all of this? As we speak today, our gas is still being flared in the Niger Delta when we don't have electricity. And all that is needed is harness that gas and pipe it through a turbine, and the other side, you have electricity. So there are these kind of basic things that we Nigerians are not asking the questions of our leaders. I think we have allowed the leaders to divide us on ethnic, religious, and political divides, and somebody is probably thinking that, where is this man from? Because he's talking against someone from my village. I think that's where they have left us.
All right, Jide.
So the question on if the president being the Minister of Petroleum, I think the straight answer for me is it's an aberration. Once the president is the minister, it means that the decision-making process in that ministry stops at his desk. So the question I always ask is that, what is efficiency? If I need to go to work and solve a problem between 9 to 5, and I don't have access to the person who gives the final approvals for 2 days, it means that what has happened is that we have stalled efficiency of that process by 2 days. So the first thing is this: we need to get to a stage where the Minister of Petroleum, be it oil, or shall I say the ministers of states, be it oil or be it gas, are consummate professionals. Once they're consummate professionals, they can run the ministry based on the policy side and the executive work that needs to be done. But ultimately, they should report into someone who is also a consummate professional. Now, that consummate professional can have a balance of, if it needs to be politics, maybe 20%. But 80%, he should be a technocrat so that he takes the final call. And it's just like when you sign KPIs, everybody has the level that they will sign on. If it now means that they need to defer to someone, then let them defer to an executive functioning or non-executive board. If it is privatized, then that board will take the final call. But let the president sit down and do what he went around to campaign for. If he wants to be running, let him run the country. But for the love of God, take out the final decision-making process. If you look at what has happened in oil and gas, I must say this to end. Oluvehejen, gas, she's quite good with gas. And I mean, she's a product of Shell. And you see that we're getting more final investment decisions done. She understands what she's doing. But the truth of the matter is that if you already have that, then why not take it to all levels and go and get a minister that also knows what he's doing and take your hands out of it so it can run efficiently? It's not rocket science, but hey, I really don't understand. But there is a direct correlation. We'll get things much faster done and better done if the president was not the minister.
Okay. I can take one more call before we wrap things up here. Let's take one last call. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Yeah, Miriam, good evening. Nick, thank you very much. Nick, you mentioned about gas failing gas. The biggest gas plant in Nigeria is in my village, Ndokwa East, Benekuku to be precise. We don't have light in that community. Nick, I want to thank you very much. Well, the president is the Minister of Petroleum. They told us he has right to run Nigeria the way he wants. That's what the supporters said. We all are in for it, like I always say. Thank you, every one of you there. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, for calling. In closing, guys, this issue of gas flaring, apart from the one that's flaring, we have a lot of gas, just lying fallow across this country that is even untapped, yet to be tapped. And we still have to deal with thank God Adelabu is gone. We have to deal with the likes of Adelabu and several other people who have come in his stead, holding that office and telling us the same story over and over again. And there are countries that are not as big as Nigeria that have power and have looked for different ways to manage their power, and they do not have any issues with generating power. What's the way forward? I'll give you both 30 seconds, to respond to this. What is the way forward, really, in terms of power? Just quickly. I'll start with you, Nick, and then Jide will close up.
Yes. So the way forward for power in Nigeria are two ways now. There used to be one way, but there are two now. And let me talk about the second way. The second way is that post Electricity Act. The 36 states of the Federation must come into the electricity market. They must take this thing up, because we gone are the days where we have to generate electricity in Egbin with gas and transport it to Abuja. Now there is renewable sources, the wind, the sun, and the hydro in all states of the Federation. So the states must come to the table. Governors, come to this table. Use the renewable sources, generate electricity for your people. That's the first one. The second one, of course, is that we have federal government-owned assets in the electricity sector.
5 seconds.
And the 2013 privatization has pinned the electricity sector down. Let President Tinubu go back to that privatization and redo it.
Jide, 30 seconds.
I mean, 30 seconds is not a lot, but decentralized. I mean, and that's the basic on the back of what Nick is saying. I obviously believe that we must decentralize power for it to work. Use your competitive and comparative advantage, be it wind, be it solar, be it gas. But what is also important for me is that I do not think the viability is there for 36 states. So if you have to regionalize it, then so be it. But what I think is that we must decentralize power.
I think we tried regionalizing it, but then I don't even know what happened. Anyway, I want to say thank you. Nika Gule, Jide Pratt, thank you guys for being on the show. Amazing conversation. It's good to have you join us on the show. My name is Mariana Lagos. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
More talk, news and sports after this. On your first day on the job, this is what your pension fund investment sounds like.
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.